Welcome, everyone, to Real Estate on the Up, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the real estate world in Orlando. I'm your host, Kyle Madoran, and on this show, we're all about pulling back the curtain with the unfiltered truth about real estate. We're not just here to sell houses. We're here to provide concierge-style service because everyone loves being treated like a VIP. This podcast is your go-to resource for transparency, integrity, and the knowledge you need to make smarter real estate decisions. Whether you're a seasoned investor or a first-time homebuyer, we've got you covered. So buckle up and get ready to move up in the world of real estate. It's time for Real Estate on the Up. Jason Hammer is a realtor and team lead with the firm RE. He's a native of Central Florida and therefore has a vast knowledge of our area. His background is in education and coaching for over 20 years. And with his focus on honesty and his commitment to his customers, he's helped close almost 60 transactions since 2020. So without further ado, here he is. Welcome to the show, Coach Jason Hammer.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction. I hope I live up to it. Yeah.
I know you will. I know you will. No, I'm very excited to talk to you today because of your passion and what you do. So I think that to start off, I'd love to hear a little bit about your story and your background in coaching and education and your role now as a team lead in the support of your firm.
Yeah, sounds great. From here in Central Florida, I went to middle school and high school here. Before that, I was in South Florida. And I basically started teaching and coaching right out of college. So actually, before I finished college, we were coaching I played baseball at Flagler College in St. Augustine. So stayed local throughout high school and college. And even when we were playing high school or college baseball, we were expected to run and organize camps for the local little leagues in St. Augustine, in and around St. Augustine. This is for Coach Dave Barnett. Anyone who knows St. Augustine baseball, he's now the athletic director, still the head coach for Flagler baseball. And then I came back and I taught and coached with my former high school, which was Cypress Creek High School. I was maybe the third graduating class when it first opened. I went to Dr. Phillips before then. And then they opened up Cypress to kind of relieve. Dr. Phillips had about 5,000 kids. So they opened up Cypress. And I taught and coached there with my former coaches, my former teachers. And I was always passionate about human performance and, just different activities that could kind of move the needle. As an athlete, I was probably about an average athlete, but I was able to make all-star teams and be able to play like at the collegiate level, not D1, not Florida State or University of Florida or any of those big schools like that, just because I was a hard worker. And I was able to kind of like find what were the activities that are going to generate the most benefit to make me a better baseball player. And at that time it was weightlifting. So I really got into weightlifting. I became a weightlifting coach as well. I became a certified personal trainer to kind of help my athletes grow and evolve, because sometimes you have kids who are really passionate or athletes that are really passionate, but they're not necessarily the most gifted. But if you can bring them up to speed with training, then you can improve or really improve their performance on the field. Yeah. And I think that translates perfectly into real estate, trying to identify what are the activities that are going to really move the needle for the younger agents or the newer agents in the industry. I taught and coached for 20 years, and I stayed in touch. Who's now my broker was a former student of mine. So this is an interesting story. He was a student of mine back in the early 2000s at Cypress Creek. And we always stayed in communication. He was a great kid. His parents were excellent people. They used to make me Syrian food. He's Syrian and Lebanese. That's great Middle Eastern food. They used to bring it to me. I was a young bachelor teacher at the time, and they'd bring me food. And I always stayed in touch with him and his family through the years. And his dad was into flipping homes, especially after the last crash. So he said to me, Coach, you'd be really good at real estate. I said, I have no interest in real estate. I want to own my own home, but I have no interest in real estate. So he just, he owned his own brokerage. He built it. He's top 35 under 35. This is Amir Lababidi or Amr Lababidi is how you say it in Arabic. And he, kind of stayed persistent with me. And I was teaching at Windermere Prep a few years back. And we had time to, during the lockdowns of COVID, I had time during my spring break to get my real estate license. As you know, a real estate license is relatively easy to get. So I said, let me go out as an educator. I found the coursework and the test to be really easy, to be honest with you. Maybe too easy, scarily easy. But then to actually do real estate, I found to be a lot more complicated. And so I shouted to him for an entire summer. I said, if I'm going to do this thing, I want to make sure that I really know what I'm getting into. And me being a teacher and having summers off, I basically spent pretty much every single day with him the entire summer to kind of summer of 2020 to kind of see what real estate was like. And I really liked it. I enjoyed it, had a great time with it. I kind of thought as a realtor, you'd have to be a little bit salesy, you might have to be a little bit dishonest to be successful. And I wasn't interested in that. And I found out that, pretty much all of the most successful people have high levels of integrity in this industry. And that's why they're successful, because they have repeat business just because they're honest and they're reliable. And so fell in love with the real estate and been doing it now full time for 3 years and been the team lead. I kind of started as a team lead because he really needed help with the onboarding of new agents. My background as an educator kind of facilitated that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, I think that you made a great point in saying that there's so many parallels between sort of the discipline and work ethic goes into being an athlete and
Yeah.
in real estate. And
Yeah.
so you've obviously made a very successful transition from one world into another, but there are some surprising similarities between those two. So how would you recommend for anyone out there listening who is interested in pursuing a career in real estate, how would you transition into real estate from another career path?
I think probably the most important thing is to educate yourself, is to try to find resources, maybe such as your podcast, to listen to the people who are in the industry, to pay attention to those voices. Maybe even more important than that is actually to find a mentor. So just like all of the great coaches had coaches and learned from coaches, all the great teachers had teachers. To find yourself a great mentor, I found one in my broker who is a former student of mine. Now I'm a student of his. So I think it's more important than looking at, oh, what are my splits going to be? How much money can I take for my commission? Because 100% of is $0.
Yep.
So I would worry about, like, who's going to provide me the best education, the best resources, who's going to be accessible to me when I'm in need and I'm trying to write a contract and I don't know what something means. You need to be educated and have access to a mentor who can kind of guide you through that. And it's worth money. It's worth paying the coaches, or it's
Yeah.
worth joining a team that maybe has a certain type of split to it, because they realize they're going to be providing you with very valuable information, insights, and their time. So I think that's probably the best thing you do, is find good people who are in the industry and try to align yourself with them.
Yeah, the training, you're right. The education is so very important to make sure that you have that foundation for success. And
Yeah.
it's great to hear you speak passionately about that. Now, looking at it from the opposite perspective, then, if you are a buyer or seller and you're listening to the podcast, Jason, what sort of advice can you give to buyers and sellers who are looking for a real estate agent? What qualities would be best for them to seek out in their agent?
Yeah, there's a lot of real estate agents, like I mentioned before. So that's something you are going to have to do your due diligence as a buyer or seller. In the same way, you're not going to buy the first home that you come across. You shouldn't be necessarily willing to work with the first agent you come across unless they happen to be a great agent. And so there's certain characteristics that I would look for. I would look them up to see how many sales they had. And it's okay if they're a newer agent. Sometimes we have great agents who are brand new and they're going to be fantastic from their first transaction because they're reliable, they're honest, they respond to you. These are some of the traits that you look for. There's probably more real estate agents in the state of Florida than homes for sale, though that market's starting to shift. So that may not be no longer true. I know it was true a couple of years ago. So I would look for the qualities of what type of brokers, okay, especially if you're a new agent. So I see that you're a newer agent. I'm inclined to maybe give you a chance and give you an opportunity to show me some homes, and maybe I want to work with you. But who are you depending on? Who are you relying on? Do you have a team lead or a coach? I know that the new agents that I train, I go with them for their first showings, and
Mm.
I meet their clients with them, where we bring the clients into the office so they have a chance to meet me as well. And because they can look up your history and know how many transactions you have or don't have. And I think last year I heard this stat from Tom Ferry that 49% of real estate agents sold 1 or 0 homes last year.
I heard that too.
That's a reality in this industry. It's very easy to get in. It's very difficult to be a top performer or a producer or someone who's really a great agent. Those are the agents that will take care with you, that will explain the process with you. They'll be like a tour guide for you, guiding you through the process. And they should be able to do that on day one. Like, they should be able to say, okay, we're looking for homes now. If we like any of these homes, the first step is for us to write an offer. Or maybe back up a little bit. Are you working with a lender? Do we have a pre-approval? So knowledge of the process is extremely important. And then
Right.
finding a person that you can connect with and relate to and feel has your best interests at heart, who's really trying to understand what it is that you're looking for. And they should have knowledge about those communities. If you start describing your lifestyle to me, I should be able to direct you to Dr. Phillips or Lake Nona or Winter Park, or depending on what your goals and objectives are. I should have that knowledge to be able to make those connections.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously, you have such a tremendous knowledge of education and the different schools and things. That's a huge help.
Yeah.
And anyone working with you as an agent that you're guiding through the process can certainly learn a lot. And hopefully now, as you were saying, the market is a little different now than it was in years past. I think with rates beginning to come down slowly again, hopefully we're going to see more
Mhm.
first-time home buyers, getting into
Yeah.
the process, because we really want buyers to feel like this is time to be able to get in, negotiate a good deal, even though rates are a little bit higher. So what advice would you give to those first-time home buyers who have been sitting on the sidelines and are now starting to get into the process again? What advice can you give to them?
So first of all, if they've been sitting on the fence and on the sidelines, I completely understand. So that's not something that I really give people a hard time about, because for a couple years there were really, really super attractive rates, and the price of homes were steadily coming up, but they weren't at their peak level. And then they get to their peak price point, and then rates shoot up. So to be reluctant and hesitant at that time makes sense. I understand. I don't think it makes sense to wait 2, 3, 4 years while you're paying rent. So everyone's situation is different. If you happen to be living at home or living in a situation where your rent is really cheap because maybe you're renting with a group of people who you really like, love, and trust, maybe your situation is not that bad and you can take your time. For the people who have been, they were waiting and waiting, so they signed another. I have a lot of clients in this situation. I'm glad you brought it up. It's very common right now.
Yeah.
So they were waiting for rates to come down. They didn't really come down that much. And so they signed another year lease. And now here they are. Home prices actually didn't go down at all. They went up maybe about 5%. So home prices are still relatively high in most areas. There's a few pockets in Central Florida where they may have dipped about 5%, but for the most part, on average, it probably went up closer to 5%. So depending on the community, the area, the particular home, you're probably not seeing much of a price decrease.
Right.
So my advice for them is to, again, find a great agent. So this is teamwork. Build your team. Probably like the three most important people on your team is going to be your realtor, your lender, and a good home inspector. And if you have a good realtor, he probably has access to the other two. If I'm being like frank and honest with you, like a good real estate agent has access to great resources, many options for those other two players on your team that are essential. And let's find out what your buying power is. And if you're pre-approved 400K, it doesn't mean you have to go all the way up to 400K, but it kind of gives us some ideas of what options we have. So I think that's probably some of like the first most important steps. And then to sit down with your realtor and start to describe what your goals and objectives are, and see what your plan is looking like if you just moved and relocated to Central Florida, maybe it does make sense to rent for a year and get to learn the area and decide where you want to be. For someone who's growing up here, by now you probably know where you want to be ideally. Let's find out what your buying power is with a good lender and what lending options you have and financing options you have, and let's go from there.
I
Yeah.
love the fact that you kind of brought your athletic background in this with the team concept of, yeah, being when you're a home buyer, you want to build your team of having your real estate agent, your lender, your home inspector. That is great. I haven't heard that before, and I think that is absolutely true. That's a very important point for a buyer to realize they're not in this alone. They have a team around them to help and to work on building that with great people. So that is
Yeah.
incredible. Now, as you mentioned, there's a lot of people still relocating to Florida. We are one of the top states in the country for migration from other places. So why do you say Florida is so popular with people looking to relocate? Why is this the hot spot in the Southeast?
Yeah, we hear a lot of reasons why people are relocating. I think we're very spoiled to be in Florida. It's a great state, beautiful weather. A lot of different living arrangements, especially in Central Florida, depending. There's a lot of, it's spread out wide. So there's opportunities there. A lot of people are just looking for a vacation home. So they're not necessarily relocating. Maybe they want to relocate part of the year, or they want to use a home that they can stay in when they're here on vacation, and then maybe Airbnb or use for a short-term rent. So we have those options here in Central Florida, which maybe a lot of other communities may not have as many options as we do. We also have lower taxes, like state taxes, although they're increasing and property taxes are increasing, but in general, we have cheaper and lower property taxes as well. We have great weather year round for the most part. I believe it's really beautiful weather,
Yeah.
good food, a lot of nice people, and you're going to meet locals here. You're going to meet people who are from all wherever you're coming from. There's going to be other people from that same state or area or country who you'll also be able to connect with. So I think there's just a lot of great options that we have here, whether it's investment properties, great neighborhoods. There's some great schools, both public and private schools. Like I said, I was a teacher and a coach. There's a lot of educational options that we have here in Central Florida. Yeah.
Yeah, there are. You're right. And you're absolutely correct about it being a melting pot. There's people
Yeah.
from all walks of life from everywhere. Orlando is that magnet. It draws them in from all over the world, like you said. It's really a great place to be. And it's exciting to be part of it. And as a buyer, you can definitely find what you're looking for. So I love the fact that you brought that up as well. No matter what it is you're seeking, it's possible to
It's
find
there.
it here in Central
Yeah.
Florida. Yeah.
Yeah. And we still have affordable homes. Like there's
Right.
still homes. I went out under contract in Lake Alfred, and sure, it's about 45 minutes from, maybe Kissimmee, Orlando area. So it's a little bit out there. It was definitely considered out there when I was a kid growing up, or even like a high school coach driving out to Lake Alfred or Arbondale. These places in Polk County seem like to be in the middle of nowhere for me growing up in Orlando. But now they're getting quite built up, and there's some great deals out there, especially new. I should have mentioned that. So for a lot of first-time home buyers, probably the best option you have would be new construction deals. A lot of these builders are offering 30-year mortgages at a 5.5% rate, 6.5% interest rate. A lot of them are offering anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000 in concessions and builder concessions to really encourage you and entice you in to buying in their community. And these are some great communities that, in 5 or 10 years will be like the next Lake Nona. I just visited Everby, Pulte Homes with my wife a couple weeks back, and this feels like Lake Nona before Lake Nona. I wish when I first heard about the building out in Lake Nona, I said, no one's going to want to come out here. Like past the airport, all the cow pastures and who's going to come out
There's
here
nothing
really?
there, right? It was empty. It was just farmland. Yeah.
Oh man, if I would have bought it in there in the early 2000s, yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't see the vision. And now if you look at a community like Pulte's building in Everby, and there's a bunch of pockets like that. There's a bunch in St. Cloud and Harmony. There's a whole lot in the Claremont region as well. So like whether you're going Eastern Corridor, like the Everby, the St. Cloud Harmony, or the Western Corridor, like Claremont all the way down to Auburndale and Lake Alfred, there's a lot of great options. Now they're not right centrally in Orlando because that's kind of all built up.
Mhm.
But if you're
Right.
looking for some new construction options, getting a brand new home at a great rate and very affordable pricing, we still have those affordable home options too.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. New home construction is a good option because they also have those rates. The builders offer rates so if you are sensitive to the interest rate of your mortgage, a lot of builders are offering buy downs to make it a little more attractive, which is great.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, we're talking about all this growth that's occurring. What do you envision for the future of the real estate industry, particularly here in Orlando and Central Florida?
Yeah, I think the future is pretty bright because people want to be in Central Florida, and the people who are here, they want to stay here. So you definitely find most of my friends are still somewhere in Central Florida. Like maybe I grew up in the Hunters Creek area. So a lot of my friends have migrated out of Hunters Creek, but now they're in Claremont or they're in Dr. Phillips or they're in Windermere or Winter Garden. So you'll find a lot of the locals still stay in Florida and a lot of times still stay in Central Florida, while at the same time people are moving into Central Florida and even from South Florida. So we have a lot of people from Latin America moving in. We have a lot of people from South Florida moving in and people from up north moving, all kind of converging here in Central Florida. So the thing I foresee is probably still horrible traffic on I-4. That's always been since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And now my kids are grown and it's still really bad traffic on I-4. So I don't think that's going to change. But I think the options and opportunities for great communities are going to continue to evolve and grow. I see a lot of development and interest in Central Florida from the Olympus project. I'm blanking out. There's a few more projects. There's a second one in Claremont, Wellness Way, also in Claremont.
Yep.
So you see like Neo City as well in Kissimmee.
I was
So
just
when
going to
you
mention
see
Neo
that,
City. Yeah, I think that's a big, exciting one. Yeah.
it is. So when you see these types of investments and developments into Central Florida, it's an indicator that we're not really slowing down the way you see some parts of the country slowing down in real estate. I would love for the pricing to come down, not necessarily for my sellers who build up a lot of equity, but for like especially first-time home buyers, either rates or home prices, I would love to see them come down just to make it a little bit more affordable. I have a lot of friends who are still teachers and coaches, and firefighters and police officers. And for them, it's very difficult to get into the market directly in Orlando.
Yeah, you're right. It because the growth is expanding outwards, there's opportunity sort of in those newer areas that are being developed. But you're absolutely right. It would be great to see a path for home ownership to people who are kind of priced out of the market in many ways. So,
Yeah.
so that's very true. I hope there's a solution to that.
You have the phenomena too of the golden handcuffs. I'm in that
Yeah.
situation that, I love my home that I'm in, but we would love to move into new areas in Central Florida. And right now, we're just locked in at a very attractive rate, like a lot of Americans are. So to kind of give up this house to go in, to a 7 or 8% interest rate is a little bit, does it make sense? So I'd love to see rates come down a little bit, just so the people who have those golden handcuffs, who are kind of locked in these very attractive mortgages, have the option to move into other areas. And then that creates opportunities for first-time home buyers to come into their starter homes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. And it's very true. Let's hope that we see rates continue to come down this year. I know that's
Yeah.
what we're all hoping for. We're hoping
Yeah.
for it in the business. Buyers are hoping for it. So let's
Yeah.
hope that Jerome Powell and everyone decides to make that move. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's awesome to hear someone who's so passionate about the business, helping people obtain homeownership, and also the training and education, which I firmly believe are so very important to being successful for people who are in this business looking to get into real estate. Finding that mentor, finding that person to help you obtain that knowledge and that experience is so important. So I can hear you speak about it, and obviously with your background, you're a great advocate for that.
And there's a lot of great opportunities as well. Like, I think if as soon as you sign up for whatever MLS you're going to sign up for, you sign up in the MLS, you're going to start getting emails about educational opportunities and real estate masterminds. And a lot of these things are free. And you should go there as a newer agent, and you're going to be rubbing shoulders with very experienced, successful agents who are sharing some of the greatest knowledge you could ever pay for. So, like, a lot of educational opportunities within the industry. I didn't expect that, to be honest with you. I thought everything was going to be like pay to play type thing. And the amount of people who are willing to share their experience and their ideas and like what worked for them is really phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. There's training abound. There's all kinds of things you can get involved with. And
Yeah.
I do think that people who are maybe before their business starts developing, where they still have time to, instead of going out on showings and consultations, where they have time to go to this training, it's a great way to make sure you're educating yourself so that you can be the best advocate for your customers. So yeah, I love that. It's an excellent
And
point.
from there, you'll probably find your mentor. You'll probably find
Right.
your mentor, your coach at one of those events.
Yeah. So speaking of which, so if we have agents out there who are looking to get in the business, or ones who are in the business and looking for more of that mentorship, that training, how can someone get in touch with you? What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so you can find me on IG. It's probably the most common app I'm using right now for social media, for real estate. Back in my teaching and coaching days, it was Facebook, because we had like longer posts and debates and discussions about history and political topics. And you'll notice that for the most part, most real estate agents are on IG, on Instagram. So I'm coachhammer.re, coachhammer.realestate.re. Coach Hammer, because everyone still calls me coach, right? And even in my office, because I'm the team lead and I'm the one who's training the newer agents when they join our team, they refer to me as coach.
I love
So
that.
that's kind of like stuck with me from the time I was a young coach all the way up to now. Even though I was a classroom teacher, people that weren't necessarily my athletes, I might have been coaching baseball or whatever sport I was coaching, I would have students in class, they still referred to me as coach, even though I didn't necessarily coach them in anything. I was just a history teacher. Yeah, so coachhammer.re. I would love to connect with you. I would love to give you some questions that you can ask your broker when you're interviewing, because I know everyone's going to be thinking, like I mentioned before, about the money and the split situation. Try to really develop your skill level and your knowledge level first, and then the money's going to come. You will end up closing deals and making money and being successful when you have the skill set and the knowledge base.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I think you had some great information to share with both buyers and sellers out there, and also with real estate agents. And I love connecting with people in this industry who are so passionate about what they do. So thank you for taking the time today.
Kyle, thank you very much. Wishing you and your podcast, Upwell Realty, all the best.
Thanks so much. Coach Jason Hammer, everybody. Thanks again. And hopefully our paths will cross again very soon.
Would love that. Take care. Thank you.
As we conclude another eye-opening episode of Real Estate on the Up, I want to express my appreciation for joining us. Thank you for being a valuable part of the Real Estate on the Up community. Your time and engagement mean the world, so make sure you subscribe and leave a review. Your real estate goals are my priority, and my team and I are here to provide the personalized attention and service that have earned us high recognition. If you have questions, need guidance, or are ready to make a move, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm just a message away. I'm Kyle Madoran, one of Rate My Agent's top 100 in the United States, signing off. Until next time, take care and make those real estate dreams a reality.